Now, if we're taking a look at the effect of a sample size on margin of error and size of confidence level. So in this case, the 2011 Canadian federal election took place on May 2nd, 2011. A large number of opinion polls were conducted in the days leading up to this election. The table below gives us the results of 4 of these polls. The data represents the percent of sample who would cast their vote for each party. Some of the results do not add up to 100% because votes for minor parties and independent parties are not included in this table. So there's going to be some voting possibilities that were just so low that they didn't even include it. The results are accurate to the stated margin of error 19 out of 20 times. So, if we're looking at the columns for number in the sample size in here, and the margin of error in here, how does the sample size affect the margin of error? Well, if I take a look at my biggest sample size, I have the smallest margin of error. If I look at my smallest sample size, I have my biggest margin of error. So, the larger the sample size, the smaller the margin of error. For each polling form, calculate the 95% confidence interval for the percent of Canadian voters who would vote for the New Democratic Party and complete the table. Well, if I'm looking at the first one, where it said that for the Harris Decima, and I'm just looking at, in this case, the NDP values, then I would say, well, they had a 30% with a plus or minus 3.1%. I'm going to say that if I go down 3.1%, it's going to be 26.9%. If I go up 3.1%, it's going to be 33.1%. For Angus Reid, I'm going to go up or down 2.2% from that 33%. I have a 30.8% to 35.2%. For Nanos, it's 30.6% plus or minus 3. So I have 27.6% to 33.6%. And for Echos, it's 31.2% with a plus or minus of 1.8. 29.4% going to 33.0%. If I am looking at the polling firm to calculate the 95% confidence interval for the percent of Canadian voters who would vote for the Conservative Party, then I would do the same thing that I did in the last case. I'm just going to look at the Conservatives and take my Conservative along with the plus or minus to figure out what the interval would be. So in this case, I'm going to say that for the Conservatives, for the first one, it would be 31.9 to 38.1. For the second one, it's going to be 34.8 to 39.2. For nanos, 34.0 to 40.0. And for echoes, 32.1 to 35.7. The NDP we already calculated. We said it was 26.9 to 33.1, 30.8 to 35.2, 27.6 to 33.6, and 29.4 to 33.0. In which of the polling firms is there no overlap of percents in the confidence interval? Well, I can see here that this goes all the way down to 31.9, this goes up to 33.1, so there definitely is overlap between the confidence intervals here. In the second one, this goes all the way down to 34.8, this goes up to 35.2, so there's overlap. In nanos, this goes down to 34.0, and this goes up to 33.6. So there is no overlap. And for the echoes, it goes all the way down to 32.1. This one goes up to 33%. So there's obviously overlap in these three cases. In Harris, in Angus, and in echoes. In which of the polls can we say with 95% confidence that the NDP will receive a higher percentage vote than the Liberal Party? Well, if I'm going to state it for the Liberal Party, I need to figure out what the ranges are going to be. So for the Liberals, I would do the same thing that we did for the Conservatives and for the NDPs. I'm going to solve for the Liberals using the Harris data, the Angus data, the nanos data, and the echoes data to solve for what that range would be. So for the Liberals, I get for Harris that is going to be from 18.9% to 25.1%. For Angus, I get 16.8 to 21.2. For nanos, I get 19.7 to 25.7. And from echoes, I get from 19.2 to 22.8. And if I compare all this data to the NDP information, then I'm doing the same thing I did in the last example. I'm looking for overlap. And for the Harris research, there is no overlap. For Angus, no overlap. For nanos, no overlap. And from echoes, no overlap. which means from all the data that I currently have, all of the polls suggest that the NDP will receive more votes. And if we did the Bloc Québécois and the Green Party, then I would need to check what the confidence interval is for both these. So I'm going to say for Bloc, if I take a look at it, it's going to be from 1.9% to 8.1%. For Angus, it's going to be from 3.8 to 8.2. For Nanos, it's going to be from 2.5 to 8.5. And from Echoes, it's going to be from 4.6 to 8.2. For the Green Party, it's going to be from 3.9 to 10.1, from 1.8 to 6.2, from 0.2 to 6.2, and from 4.2 to 7.8. If I take a look at them, well, this one has overlap. This one has overlap. This one has overlap. And this one has overlap. There is no case we can confidently say that Bloc will receive more votes. There's overlap in every single case.